Hello and welcome to the Infinity Podcast. I'm your host Warren. Today I'm on my own because I've got a very special podcast. Today is our 10-year anniversary and I wanted to share with you 10 of the lessons that I've learned over 10 years of being in business. Now, we started off on the 1st of March 2015. By the time you're watching this, it's probably a little bit after that, but we started off as Teesside Barbell Club. 2 years ago, we transitioned to become Infinity because we felt the name better fitted the people that we work with. Ladies who are 40 plus in the Teesside area and looking to improve their health, strength and confidence. Now, there have been many successes along the way. I have loved every single minute of being a personal trainer, of coaching these ladies to get healthier and stronger. But one of the biggest things that I want to share, and I wish I'd done this prior, was that documenting the challenges and the mistakes and the lessons that I've learned along the way. Because as a personal trainer, I have made mistakes. As a business owner, I've made a multitude of mistakes. But I think it's really important to share this online with you guys, but also for myself, so that I can look back on this in a year, hopefully 10 years, and just look at the changes again in the future. So let's dive into the podcast. Now, number one, this relates to everything. Habits beat challenges every single time. Now, challenges are good. They are helpful. They help us to get motivated in a short space of time and really focus our attention on something, whether that is losing weight, whether that is doing finances. I'm taking on a little challenge myself at the moment where I'm putting away more money than I've ever done before in terms of savings, because I'm just taking on board. I'm hoping that I can build that into a long-term habit and focus on being a better saver, if you like. But the same applies when it comes to dieting. A lot of people will only fix their mindset onto dieting for 6 weeks, lose as much weight as possible, and then go back to their way of living. Now, if your habits never change, then you'll only ever go back to that same starting point, and you'll be surprised at how quickly your weight will go back onto that starting point. Most people already know this, but I feel that it needs stating that so many people misinterpret the ability to make that change and to make it long-term sustainable without changing the habits. If right now you are finding that your weight isn't where you want it to be, a simple change of having a healthier meal for your lunch when you're at work will have a profound impact. Yes, it might not transform you in 6 weeks like a rapid diet would, but it's going to teach you a damn sight more about yourself and help you to improve yourself than doing a challenge would. Number two, action beats intention. Now, what this means is there are so many times along the way that I've heard people say, I need to go to the gym. I'm going to start going to the gym 4 times a week. But you put so much pressure on yourself that you never start. You focus on being perfect that you never actually start. If you simply go to the gym once per week, pick a day, pick a time and stick to it. Once you've done that, you can start to build on that. By taking action, doing the small things, making it easy for yourself, you're going to make sure that that becomes a habit, and then you can stack the next thing on top of that. This is one of the biggest challenges that most people face because they try and reinvent the wheel every single time they're trying to get back into health and fitness, and it applies to every single area. If you can take action right now without making a drastic intention to do so or looking for the right amount of motivation, you will be surprised at how far you can actually go. And that leans into number 3. You are powerful beyond measure. Now, this quote is part of something that comes from Coach Carter, one of my favorite movies. But essentially, people will ask me all the time how far I think they can go. And the only person that can know that is you. You put your own limitations on yourself, even subconsciously. There has been so many times over the years where I've got success stories of people having car accidents, having shoulder injuries, but then being able to put more than half of their own body weight overhead and to squat that weight, where people have been able to deadlift over 100 kilos, more than my own body weight, where people have gone from having joint replacements, multiple joint replacements, unable to kneel down, to then go on to doing box jumps and kneel down without being in agony, to do things day to day. This happens all of the time, but this only happens as a result of those people believing in themselves to make that change. And if you believe that you can make that change and you can make it sustainable and you can transform your life, you're going to be in a much better place. I have so many of these success stories and I wish I'd shared them more often and more sooner. There are so many times that we have had ladies come to us and they've gone on to do something else and they've stayed physically active. I love getting those messages, and I wish that more people would derive success from people not just doing it in these challenges that they work with us, but also from the people that are successful years down the line, from transforming their lives. Just to hold my hands up, I never take on board anybody's success, just like I never take on board anybody's failure. Because at the end of the day, if I tell you to do something and you don't do it, you can blame me for being a bad coach and not helping you the right way to get that result. But realistically, if you're not able to apply yourself, you're never going to get that result anyway, whether it's with me or another coach. That might need communicating in a different way depending on who you're working with, but the most important thing is that you are the one that is in the driving seat to get the results. Essentially, myself or any other coach is just like a sat-nav, giving you indications. If you make the choice to drop into a services and have a McDonald's or something along those lines, for want of a better term, then that's okay. You can still do that as long as you're still moving on that path. But if you take the turn and then do a U-turn and go back the other way, it's only on you. So just remember that you right now are powerful beyond measure. You can make the progress that you want if only you can apply yourself. Number 4, and this is a lesson that I've learned over just the last few years, parenting is so much easier when you're stronger. I have had multiple people, including my own girlfriend, go through pregnancies, and because of them being stronger, they have had much more easy labours and a much easier childbirth process. Whether that process the right word, whether that is down to strength training, I don't know. But essentially, I can only talk from my own experience. And when our daughter Nora was born, we went out for a meal. We went to, I don't mind saying the name of it, we went to, what's it called? Restaurant in Yarm. I forgot the name of it now. Anyway, we went to a restaurant in Yarm. I had a hot shot parmo and Naomi had a platter, I believe. And we come home. Next thing, Naomi's a little bit uncomfortable, so we ran her a hot bath. She went in the bath. I phoned the hospital about 3 or 4 times, and the hospital were adamant that she wasn't in pain because they could hear her on the phone. Anyway, in the end, I said, look, she's getting it really uncomfortable here. We went over, went in, and they said, look, if she's not fully dilated, we're going to have to send you home. Went in, checked her over, she was fully dilated, said the baby's coming. About an hour and 10 minutes later, Nora was here. Crazy, absolutely crazy. But I have seen this happen multiple times. We had one lady working with us, Sarah, who had 3 kids while she was with us. The first child, she didn't do the strength training just before, and then she'd stopped working out in the lead up to it. The second child, she was working out the night before, I think it was a Thursday. So she was actually strength training the night before. She went in that night and I think she was out the next day pretty quick. And then the same again for the third child. But I do genuinely believe that strength is a massive positive predictor of having a better pregnancy. If someone believes against that, that's absolutely fine. I will totally take on board the research and stuff. But based on my own experience with that, I just thought it was very valid to share. Number 5 is you're not too old. Society is just outdated. There's been multiple times where people have told me that they have been told not to strength train because they're too old. They need to look after themselves. They need to be careful. But realistically, this is so far outdated, it's unbelievable. We now know the impact of lack of strength on people's muscle mass declining. We know that osteoporosis is a massive challenge for ladies in particular after the age of 50, once you've gone through the menopause and whatnot. So it's really, really important that you focus on maintaining as much muscle as possible, as much strength as possible, so that you can maintain your quality of life. This declines rapidly in ladies, so I think this is a really important message that needs to be put out there more and more. And if anything in this, if you're in that category and you share this with someone, the biggest gift that you can give to a loved one is to showcase to them that they should be doing some form of exercise. Now, it doesn't have to be in a gym or machines and that sort of thing, but make sure that you're doing some form of resistance exercise, because that is going to keep them healthier for longer. And if you really care about someone, I genuinely believe that that is going to be far greater than getting them sweets for the birthday. Number 6, in line with what I've just said, strength is a better indicator than BMI and your blood pressure. Now, your strength is a massive indicator of your all-cause mortality. So any potential problems that you're going to have, if you've gone through the menopause, you're at greater risk of insulin resistance, which is going to create more fat around the waist, around the organs. You are at greater risk of type 2 diabetes, which is going to lean into that insulin resistance. You've got a greater risk of osteoporosis, sarcopenia, which is muscle waste. Osteoporosis is your bone health declining. All of those things are impacted by lack of strength. Now, one thing that I wasn't aware of until the last year or so was that even if you've got a huge amount of muscle mass and say you're not strength training, that muscle mass, the quantity of that muscle mass isn't as big an indicator as your overall strength. So what people often do is called a grip strength test, and this will give us an indication about where you're at in terms of your strength. This is something that we're going to introduce this year, hopefully, into our health MOTs, because this helps us to understand where someone is at when they're starting out with us. And then when they've been training with us for a little while, we'll be able to test the grip strength again. If it's the same, we know that that's a positive indicator, because we're not losing strength, where so many people who aren't resistance training are going to lose that, and it's going to mean that they're at a worse risks of all those causes of problems, cardiovascular disease, that sort of thing. And one story I would love to share with you on this is that when it comes to the BMI and the blood pressure, things like stress and lack of sleep. Now, I'm recording this at 3 o'clock in the morning, so chances are later on today my blood pressure is going to be a little bit higher, my heart rate is going to be a little bit higher, my heart rate variability is going to be all over the place. It depends on when you go in. So if you go in and you get your blood pressure done, if you go in and get your BMI done and things like that, and it hasn't been a good month, and then you're getting that done every year, that's not a good overall indicator. Whereas your strength doesn't drastically change day to day. It's quite consistent. So we can see that year on year, if that's declining, then we can do something about it. One of the stories that I love to tell on this is that one of the ladies that we train, she's not an elderly lady by any stretch of means, but she went to her doctor's and she gets medication, and the doctor won't give the medication if her BMI is above a certain level. So what we started doing is sending her in with body scans that essentially tell you how much muscle, how much fat you've got, and what your water is within your body in relation to your BMI. And as a result of doing that, taking those scans in, that meant that that person was in a healthier position to go and get that, because they had way more muscle mass than a normal person at that weight would have, so that we're more metabolically active. So this gives us a better indication of someone's overall health than just BMI alone. Number 7 is sensors versus sensors. So this is in relation to the tech boom that has happened over the last 10 years. Now, I wear a smartwatch. Many people will have the Apple Watches, the Fitbits and that sort of thing that tracks your sleep and gives us indications on that. But not many people understand the benefits of doing that. Now, I worked in the motor trade. If someone came to me and said that the parking sensors were on the blink, I could have a look at them, I could check them. But back in the day, how many people were able to reverse really well without those parking sensors? Nowadays, you've got front, side parking sensors to tell you when someone's really close to you. If you've got a Tesla, it'll bleep when someone's riding past you on a bike to make you aware that they're there. Now, this dulls our senses to what is actually happening. And in the same way, fitness technology might be dulling your senses to what is actually happening within your body. If you feel crap after a night's sleep, but then your watch is telling you that you've had a good 8 hours of sleep, what do you then believe? Realistically, we need to dial into those senses, because when we become more self-aware of what is happening in our bodies, we're better able to apply ourselves in different situations. And this is something that I find really fascinating when we speak to ladies in the gym. One of the things that we have started asking the ladies when they come in is whether they want to stick or twist. And this is just a novel way that we use to understand where someone's at. Because if I say to you, you go into work and I say, hey, how you doing? You go, yeah, I'm all right. But whether you're feeling great or whether you're feeling crap, you're probably going to downplay things and say, yeah, I'm all right. And this is what we'll find most of the time. Whereas if I say to you, do you want to stick or do you want to twist? When it comes to your session, you have to think about what that answer actually means to you. Because if someone says they want to stick, it might mean that they've been tired at work all day, so they don't want to push themselves in the gym. They've shown up, and they just want to get through that. If they want to twist, they might have a lot of energy that they want to burn off. They've had a frustrating day, and they want to push themselves a little bit more and feel better about themselves as a result. And this allows us as coaches to better interpret what is going on in that person's body. And I think this helps with self-awareness as well, is because if you have more days where you're sticking, then we can evaluate what is happening within your life, whether that's lack of sleep, whether that is poor nutrition, whether that is just the stresses of everyday life and how that's impacting you, so that we can make some small changes to then look at how we can have a positive impact with our exercise and then feel better overall. I think one of the funny stories when I was actually thinking about this, and I want to share this, is that the parking sensors and the cameras example. There was a story in 2017 of a lady who was in Suffolk who bought a motorhome, and she was really excited. This was like a lifetime purchase. She wanted this motorhome, bought it, and she's driving along the road. She's at 40 mile an hour. She switches on the cruise control, gets up and make a cup of coffee, and then was shocked when the motorhome was wrapped around a tree. Now, she thought that cruise control was an autopilot, and this is what often happens when we've got technology. It can switch us on to autopilot because we become dull to our own senses and rely on what the watch is telling us or the technology that we actually use. I've seen it time and time again. The lady who I mentioned that went to the doctors with her body scans, she actually wore a heart rate monitor, and her heart rate was not really high, but you could see that she was actually being really challenged. She was sweating profusely, she was struggling to breathe. So her heart rate, her high heart rate, wasn't at a standard level for what would be deemed for someone of her age. So in understanding that, we had to make an adjustment within that sensor so that we could bring that down so that we knew exactly where she was. And that's where we need to calibrate these things. Once we have a better understanding about where we're at with our health and fitness, those times that we push, we can actually improve our fitness, we can improve our strength. And then those times that we're really tired, that we feel low, that we can't necessarily mentally push ourselves, we can focus on maintaining, but also manage it from there as well. Hopefully that makes sense. Number 8, managing menopause. This is probably one of the biggest ones for me. When I first started as a personal trainer, I had no education on this. I had no understanding about what the menstrual cycle was or anything like that. I remember pushing Libby, my business partner, to the absolute brink when she was going through her luteal phase of the menopause, which is like the slump phase where you're at more risk of injury. And I think the weight was 60% less than she had done previously, and she was really struggling. In fact, I remember her being laid out on the floor after doing a tough workout, and then she felt like she had let me down, and I was just confused as to why she wasn't pushing herself as hard as she was. Anyway, fast forward to learning more about the menstrual cycle, which led on to the menopause and understanding that women go through these phases in life, not people, genuine women, but also the impact of things like sarcopenia, muscle loss with age, how that is impacted once you've gone through menopause and why it's so important to maintain that. Some of the worst advice that I've heard people be told when they're going through the menopause, particularly when it comes to exercise, and this leans into what I said earlier, is that they're often told to be careful or just take it easy. But realistically, when you're going through the menopause, one of the things that you need to be able to do is to push yourself in order to do some form of resistance training so that you can maintain that health for as long as possible. Osteoporosis is another challenge that ladies will face. Having strength will help to improve your bone health, and it's going to improve your confidence as well, because you'll feel revitalized. The more muscle that you've got, the more energy you're going to have, and the more that's going to have a positive impact on all areas of your life. Number nine is connect to continue. Now, this is something that I did not expect to experience as a personal trainer. I started out working with people one-to-one. We moved it into smaller groups. At first, myself and Libby worked with 12 ladies. I would take the ladies who were newer, introduce them to the exercise, and Libby would take the people who had been with us for a little bit of time. And we had a great atmosphere in there. Everyone was encouraging, inspirational. This was one of the biggest changes that we'd seen, is like how positive people were coming into the sessions and how great they felt leaving. At the end of the day, we were getting messages left, right and center and saying, oh, I can't believe that's been the best session I've ever had. I can't believe the experience and the knowledge and everything that you've done within that session. But it wasn't just that, it was the connection that people were making with each other. We were finding that people were finding friends that they would have for life. Friendships were starting, people were going on holiday together and connecting in a way that we'd never ever experienced before. In particular, I'd never experienced with working in a commercial gym, and it was amazing to see. The influence that had on building the community, which meant that we were doing more and more stuff outside of the gym. Again, I never thought about this stuff, but it was nice to see that we were going bowling, we were going go ape, we've done go-kart, and we've done paddleboard, we've done a multitude of different things. So it was connecting the dots between going into the gym and working hard, but seeing the impact that has on our lives outside the gym, outside the four walls of the gym. And the big impact that had on the people that were there, it had a positive impact on the people that were around them, and it helped them to show up as better versions of themselves. Just remember, most of these people, when they first start out, think that this is about losing weight. They think that this is about toning up and getting stronger. but they've found so much more. They've found connections with people that are like-minded to them. It's had a positive influence on their circle of friends, and they've then gone off and done things together that they would never have done otherwise, because they wouldn't have met those people without being in that environment. And I think that's something special to hold on to. Now, whether that is at Infinity or whether that is in another gym community, I think this is one of the biggest aspects that is overlooked when it comes to health and fitness. I have seen many people go to the gym with friends, but then one friend drops out, and as a result, the other person drops out because they don't feel like they've got someone to go with. They may be nervous, anxious, and don't feel like they have that connection. But when you get with a group of ladies who are supporting and encouraging you to be better, that motivation is always going to be there, because you absorb that from everybody else that's around you, and it is amazing to see. And then number 10 is realize your potential. Every single person who I have worked with has asked me questions around what I thought about them being able to achieve whatever result they wanted. Every single person has had thoughts about quitting at some point. I have had many thoughts over the last 10 years about quitting as a personal trainer. I've had self-doubts about whether I've been good enough to do it, but I've not really shared them with people, because the stories of people coming to me of telling me that they can now get up the stairs, that they can now pick up the grandchild, that they can now carry the shopping in Awana without having to go back and forth because they no longer have the back pain, because they can now kneel down and do the gardening because they haven't got the knee pain from the knee replacement, and all of those things have a massive impact. So I feel like every single time I look at quitting, I look back to those things. And for you, if you don't have any thoughts about quitting, I'd say that you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. If you have thoughts about quitting, just understand that those are normal. What you have to do in that instance is revisit why you actually started this. I started doing this because I wanted to impact change in so many people. My initial story for starting this was essentially that old, I think it's an African proverb where if you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. I have seen so many ladies come and go through our doors, and so many of them that have stayed healthy and stayed fit, and as a result continue doing what they've been doing with the health and fitness as a result of coming to us. I don't think that's down to us. I think that's down to the shift in mindset that they've had from being in that environment. And by being in the right environment, you will have a massive change in the way that you look at things. And every single time you think about quitting, you'll find a number of reasons to keep on going. And by keeping on going, you're going to find yourself in a healthier, a much better place than you originally did. This is also going to help you to have a positive impact on those around you, on the loved ones, on the people that you care about, because I know that for my daughter, I don't want her to grow up with the stigma and the struggles when it comes to diet and when it comes to weight loss. I know that that is a possibility. I'm not resigning myself to this will never happen to her. She might have body image issues, but I feel like with the people that I've worked with, I will be in a much better place to educate and support her through that, regardless of what everyone else is saying. Now, there's going to be many people out there who disagree with what I'm doing, the way that I'm going about it, that it is all about weight loss and doing it a particular way. That's absolutely fine. That is for them to find their own way to do it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what I've found from so many ladies is that they've had such a positive impact in all areas of their life from making this change. That has not only impacted them, it's impacted their partners. I've spoke to partners about this, about the impact that this has had on them, about the way that they show up, how much more confident they are as a result of doing this. They've gone off and got jobs or applied for jobs that they otherwise never would have. So if you think that any of this has resonated with you, I'd be over the moon. If you've got anything to add to this, if you've learned anything over the last 10 years when it comes to health and fitness, if you have found that anything that we've done, if you're listening to this as an ex-member, as a current member, that hasn't had an impact on you, I would love to hear about it. You can reach out to us on social media, on Instagram at stockton.infinity. I nearly forgot what it was there. On Facebook is infinity.stockton, or it might be the other way around. Anyway, I'll put these in the show notes. And you can look at the website if you want more information about what we do, infinity.fit. But listen, it has been an amazing journey over the last 10 years. I have loved every single second of it. There will be many more challenges along the way. I'll probably make many more mistakes, but I will hopefully hold my hands up to the ones that I spot along the way. And enjoy many more success stories with the ladies that I work with, and hopefully in the next year I'll be able to share some more stories along the way. But yeah, that's it for this podcast. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you've got any questions or you'd like to know a little bit more about what we do, we work with ladies who are 40 plus in the Teesside area to transform their health, strength and confidence. And we would love to help you make that transition so not only you feel better, but the people around you feel more positive, and maybe it inspires them to make that change as well. Anyway, I will see you in the next one.